How to identify the species of a tree. Tree identification can seem difficult at first, but it's actually quite easy. You usually don't need to know every species, you just need to notice a handful of features in a consistent order. So I'm going to share with you a simple method that you can use every time you want to identify a tree. Step 1. Look at the overall shape. Stand back and ask yourself, is it tall and narrow, wide with a rounded crown, cone-shaped? Does it have drooping branches? Many trees have a characteristic silhouette or shape. For example, oaks often have broad, spreading crowns. Birches are light and airy. Pines are usually more conical, and willow trees normally have hanging branches. Step 2. Look at the leaves. Leaves are usually the biggest clue to the species of a tree. You should ask, what shape are they? Rounded lobes, pointed lobes, heart-shaped, oval, needle-like? Are they simple, just one leaf, a compound made of many leaflets, small ones? What do the edges of the leaf look like? Is it smooth, serrated like a bread knife, deeply lobed? You can look at these different characteristics of the leaf. Step 3. How are the leaves attached? This is one of the easiest tricks that beginners to tree identification often overlook. Look along a twig. Do the leaves grow opposite, with the two leaves and a stem at the bottom, or an alternate leaf, then a stem, then a leaf? In the UK, relatively few trees have opposite leaves. A useful saying is mad horse. These common trees have opposite leaves: maple, ash, dogwood, horse chestnut. If it isn't one of these, it's probably alternate. Step 4. Feel the bark. Even in winter, the bark can identify a tree. For example, white peeling bark is usually a birch, smooth grey bark is normally a beech, deep rough ridges usually mean that it's an oak, and camouflage peeling bark is characteristic of London plane trees. Step 5 is to look for fruit, nuts or seeds. Many trees practically identify themselves using these things. For example, acorns normally mean an oak, conkers are a horse chestnut, and helicopter seeds are a sycamore or maple, or hornbeam sometimes as well. And beech nuts are a beech. And the flowers of the tree can also help. Spring flowers often appear before the leaves, such as cherry blossom, catkins on birch and hazel, hawthorn flowers, horse chestnut candles, and other ones as well. Step 7 is to look at where it's growing. The location is very important to identifying a tree. You should ask yourself, is it in a woodland, a park, a street, a wet riverbank or a heathland? For example, willows often grow near water, so you're much more likely to see it there. Scots pine commonly grows on sandy, well-drained soils. Alder trees prefer wet ground. Field maples are more common in hedgerows. And the next thing is to look at whether it's evergreen or deciduous. This is important because trees have different ways that they grow, and if you know this, you can narrow it down much better. So the first question is often simply, does it lose its leaves? If yes, deciduous. If no, evergreen. So if you're looking in the winter and it doesn't have leaves, that means that it's deciduous. And if it has got leaves all throughout the year, then it's evergreen. And needle leaves often indicate a conifer, even though there are exceptions to this as well. So to sum up, if you'd like to identify a tree, ask yourself about its overall shape, its leaf edge, whether it has opposite or alternate leaves, its bark, whether it has fruit or seeds, where it's growing, and just look at the tree from those ways. And you don't need to know every answer, just a few are often enough to identify it. The easiest UK trees to learn first are usually about 10 common species. So English oak, silver birch, European beech, horse chestnut, sycamore, Scots pine, common ash, weeping willow, common hazel, common hawthorn. Once you know these well, identifying less common species becomes much easier because you'll be comparing them to trees you already recognise. So if you live in the UK, then these trees are the best ones to start with, because it will make it much easier to know other trees, exotic ones and other things that you may come across, and they will just lay the foundation for your tree identification skills. So that's one of the best ways to start on tree identification. The key to effective identification is to observe trees in every season. A tree that looks obvious in summer may need to be identified by its bark or buds in winter, because you won't be able to see the leaves and it may have different ways that it will look. So it's important to look at it at different times of the year. Or it's important that if you are looking at it at a certain time of year, think about what that tree may look like at that time. Over time, if you adopt these methods, you'll start to recognize trees almost instantly from their overall shape before you even look at the leaves. And tree identification is something that can actually be quite fun, because you learn about the different trees around you in your local area or in places that you're visiting. It's something that actually is quite fun to do, and not only having fun yourself knowing about these trees, but you can also carry out a tree identification project in your local area to benefit people as well. So we carried out a project in our local park to tell people what trees were around here, because people wanted to know what different kinds of trees there are. And if you go to an arboretum, a garden dedicated to trees, you see tree tags which have a number, or they have the tree species on a rectangular one. And this is very useful to tell people instantly what tree it is, because most people don't know exactly how to identify every tree. So whether there's an exotic one or one that just looks pretty and someone wants to know what tree is this, maybe I can plant this in my garden, or I want to visit somewhere that has more of these trees, it's very useful to know what the species is. So adopting these skills is good to be able to understand the different trees around you. And if you do carry out a project like that to benefit the people around you or in your local area, then you can use this method to very quickly identify them. And also, for your own identification, not only using this fixed method, but also there is a plethora of very good tree identification books. You have some from the Woodland Trust and from different organisations that just give the best diagrams and really great lists of trees that may be common in certain areas. They're really useful for identification. I'd say if you can find one, even in a charity shop or on Vinted or on second-hand sites, just get the information. And there are lots of good websites as well, but the books are really useful to go out and actually compare it to the diagrams and to the characteristics. It tells you, what questions to ask when you're identifying. They're very useful. And the final thing I would suggest is a tree identification app. So if you have a smartphone, I would recommend Seek by iNaturalist. This is what I use to supplement my tree identification. So once I have the identification that I've got from my own work, I will then scan it with Seek to actually see if that confirms my identification. So I just literally hold my camera to it and it says that's an English oak or that's whatever, and that's just like a confirmation, just to give myself a bit of confidence that that is actually correct. Because although I can do it myself, there may be human error, so that's just another way to get an instant identification. But I'd say it's always good to cross-reference it with the books and with these methods to ensure that you are getting the correct identification, because AI and digital identification can sometimes make mistakes. So it's always good to have the human work put in to actually identify it. I'd always recommend doing it both ways. So yeah, this is it. In less than 10 minutes, you know how to identify a tree. It's really not that difficult. Just follow those steps, keep asking yourself the right questions, and you'll be able to identify trees very easily. Thank you.